decided to do a specific genre film, which is a film type. Ours is a thriller. And it's, my partner, Sasha, is, he's Haitian. And so he has, basically his background is of African descent, ultimately. So he's considered a person of color.
Okay. Right.
Where I am a person of white.
I see.
Okay. And we were drawing on his experience as a person of color who really didn't, like, he didn't grow up in the hood, or, I mean, he grew up in Pacific Grove by Monterey.
Okay.
But we always tell people it was the worst part of Pacific Grove.
Right.
South Central Pacific Grove.
Right.
So, but his experience going to engineering school and stuff, his whole experience as a person of color in this country was different than most African Americans who, like, may have descended from slaves. He came from Haiti by, France and Africa, went to Haiti.
Right, right.
So we wanted to tap into his experiences because he has a really interesting take on racial issues. And he has a lot of friends who are extremely they're wealthy, they're well off, it looks like the system worked for them. They hold these really harsh anti-white racist beliefs. So we wanted to set the movie in a setting where you had affluent or African Americans who quote unquote made it and really couldn't blame the man or anything, but still held those beliefs for whatever, for their own reasons. So we wanted to tap into that. So we constructed a thriller around a premise of if somebody died, would you call the cops? What would you do? And if we overlay the racial paranoia on top of that, then you have a situation where it's not so easy to, somebody died, you don't just call the cops. So it's two couples having an afternoon they think is going to be fun, and it turns into a disaster.
Well, with that, why don't we take a look at the clip? And we've got a 30-second clip here. So why don't we roll the clip, Mr. Director? And
we just call the police. We tell them what happened. We didn't do anything, and it'll be fine.
Is that how it works for white folks, Mike?
Why is it always a racial thing with you?
You got two brothers standing over a dead body. We're just lucky it wasn't you, else we'd be lynched by now.
I don't know. OJ got off all right.
Anthony!
Look, this is not helping us.
Okay, so that was a clip. So tell us what was going on there.
Well, what was going on there is the central incident in the movie where somebody dies has just happened. And normal people would say, well, somebody dies, we call the cops. Oh, wait a minute, why can't we call the cops? Well, you have one character who's, he's in a white neighborhood. He's this is set like in the Los Altos Hills.
Right.
Well, there probably aren't a lot of black Los Altos police officers.
Right.
And so he's very paranoid that if the cops come, they're just going to arrest him. They won't. So he wants to kind of cover things up. And then the other character, Anthony, the one who was kind of standing on the side there, he's kind of in between. He doesn't know what to do.
Right.
Anyway, that sets off a chain of bad decisions.
I saw the film. I went to the opening.
That's right. We had a fun.
It was fantastic. It was really exciting to hear you and the director talk about how things went. What inspired you? I mean, you say it was your director. It was really from him that. What personally what brought you into making this film?
Well, first of all, I kind of enjoy stories where people dig their own graves. I have kind of a dark sensibility. And this movie, which on the surface is pretty, serious issues and that sort of a thing. I like the sort of ironic comic aspect to it where people are their own worst enemies. Furthermore, I actually identified with the character of Michael, the guy who doesn't want to call the cops. Because, even as a white person, people, when I see a cop, what do I think?
Right.
And I think, I'm glad I'm not black or Hispanic or whatever. And people, think my Sasha, he thinks that's ridiculous. Why would you be afraid? But I just think that it's a different world for people of color in this country. And I think it is anywhere, unless you go back to the country where there are more people of color.
Right.
But, and I think America has their head in the sand a little bit about that. What I really clicked into in this story, it was the first time that this director had done a story that really drew from his own experiences. And I wanted, as a producer, to kind of flesh that out of him.
Right, right.
Okay.
I see.
So that's why I was involved, not just as a producer, but as he came up with the story, and we both wrote the script together.
I see. You talked about being a producer, and I also heard you talk about at one point earlier. You'd said that you guys kind of clashed at a point. I mean, producer and director, you know, the business side and the creative side clashing. But you guys managed to pull that together at the end. You know, you said, "Listen, we can rise above this." What's that like being a producer and managing all this talent?
Well, I think it's, you know, anytime you have a wad of money that you have to get a movie made with, and you realize, okay, we had a 3-week shoot, and just after the first couple of days, it seemed like we were bleeding money. And being this was my first film, you know, I didn't have anything to fall back on, like to say it was going to be okay. So you have the director who wants to capture his vision and really has to look at things like we have unlimited resources.
Right.
But the producer knows you don't have unlimited resources. So you kind of have to have a meeting of the minds so that what you see on the screen is kind of a compromise between, you know, the financial limitations that you started out with on your project and the artistic vision. Because if people think that every shot in a movie is exactly what the director wanted, they're sadly mistaken. I mean, the director, you know, a lot of the stuff he wanted just never got in the movie because we just didn't have time. And time and money are very closely, you know. And we had a budget where nothing could go wrong. We didn't have any leeway, and that just didn't happen. But at the end, you know, creatively, you have to work together. When you finish filming the movie, you're about a third of the way done. You've got a lot left to go, and if you've already committed these resources and this energy and this time into the project, you have to say, hey, look, we got to get together on this because we still have to, you know, it's like parents deciding, you know, well, we need to think about the child. You know?
Right.
And that's really what you have to do. And as a producer, you have to be the adult.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and that's, you know, not easy to do to another grown person.
Absolutely. And this took about 3 weeks, and you actually, I guess, where did you shoot the film? Where was
the film was shot in Prunedale, which is near
Local.
Salinas. Yeah. And it was shot in a private house that's in not really a gated community, but it's a private community of homes. And the homeowner was a childhood friend of Sasha's, director.
Oh, I see.
And he built this house himself. And they moved out for 3 weeks and let us film.
Is that right?
So
And
that's pretty amazing. People would do that.
Yeah, that is. Because I've been following your story closely. You talked about somebody actually went through a wall.
Yeah, there's a little scuffle in the kitchen, and the house has these beautiful textured walls. And one of our actors put his ass through the wall. And when that happened, we found out that the walls were all covered with like 1/8-inch wallboard.
Oh, is that right?
Or 3/8 inch. That was it. I mean, it was really tiny.
Pretty thin, huh?
And so after that we were scared we were going to, you know, break down the house. And we had to hide the hole because the owners would come back and see how things were doing, and we had to put like flags and drapes over the hole so she wouldn't, until we figured out how we were going to fix it. So
is that right? But you guys got it fixed.
We got it fixed, but that's in a very creative way.
Yeah, absolutely, great. The hardest part about producing, what is it?
Probably the hardest part is you have a lot of things in your head at one time, especially during the shoot. Pre-production isn't so bad because you can map it all out. Post-production isn't so bad, again, because you can take things in stages. But during the actual shooting of the film, everything happens at once. And you have to, excuse me, you have to come out of the shooting process with enough stuff to make a movie.
Right.
And so you're worried about managing your costs, managing your personnel, managing all your resources. Then you have to make sure that, you know, what is coming through the lens of the camera onto the film or the video, we use film is what you can make the movie with. So there's all these different things happening at the same time.
Right.
That's the most difficult part about it. The key is is to have a policy where nobody on your team, you wouldn't want them to be around. I mean, if somebody's a jerk, get rid of them. And that's not always easy to do, but you want to surround yourself with people you trust and people who will take a bullet for you, because sometimes that has to happen.
Right.
So.
And your actors, how did you go about